Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Special Ed, IEPs, 504s, oh my, Conversations with DCCAC. I'm Aaliyah Mastriani, and today I'm joined by two of my fellow board members, Kelly Mayer and Courtney Nangle. Hey, ladies.
Hey.
We are going to talk about the month of May, and honestly, how hard it can be. This time of year is a lot for any family with school-aged children, but when you're raising children with disabilities, the layers of stress and scheduling and emotions and expectations, it can really stack up, and it makes this month feel unbearable. So today, we're just going to be real, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what May looks like in our homes, the overwhelm, the behaviors, the emotional load, maybe some of the ways that we survive it. So, my friends, when you think about May, what jumps into your head?
I would say madness is the word that comes to mind.
Insanity. Literally insanity. Bananas, walls to wall chaos. Like, how do we manage it all?
Pretty much. That's exactly what I think about as well. A little bit of like panic sweat. What makes May different than the other months?
I think that it's a scheduling thing, that a lot of things happen at the end of the year. And having been doing this for a really long time, I always say May is my least favorite month of the year. Why is teacher appreciation this week, when we have everything else, the end of the year? And that could be that some of these things are national, and locally our schools end in May. So we don't have much time. So they're cramming a lot of things in. If you have a high school level student, we have AP testing going on right now. We have end of year prom. We have end of year graduations. We have end of year concerts. So it just feels like so much.
As an East Coaster, I'm so used to it being June. So I'm still trying to get back on the, okay, it's May. Can I just survive until the end of the year? Because this is too much.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like also sometimes, probably for all parents, but maybe since I'm in the special needs world, for special needs parents, I feel like we reach the boundary of what we can accomplish. We're like, okay, I'm working, I'm getting 98% of everything that I need to be done. And then all of a sudden, when all these things layer up, it can sometimes be that straw that breaks the camel's back, or that one thing that pushes you over the edge. And suddenly you're like, hey, I can't manage my life anymore.
Especially when April is so focused on, okay, this kid has an IEP, I have to renew that one. This kid has an IEP, I have to renew this one. One's going to summer program. Let me start to transition him to get him ready in the best way that I possibly can, because he's going to be like, wait, I go and everyone else stays home.
Right. I mean, it's such a transitional time. I know personally for my youngest, he is struggling. He's kind of done. He's kind of burned out. He's held it together. I'm getting a lot of phone calls from him saying, can you pick me up early? Like, we're all just kind of feeling this burnout.
Same, intense, same. And that's actually goes perfectly into the next sort of topic that I wanted to talk about, where I can get really focused on the additional challenges of things that I personally need to accomplish in May, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. There's the things pile up. And then it's important for me to remember that our children are experiencing the same thing, that they're tired as well, their burnout is happening as well, but they also have tasks and finals and this buildup that's happening for them as well that can increase behaviors and school refusals, and we might suddenly start to see problems popping up at school that we hadn't seen for a while or we thought that we had gotten over.
I think that often we see with neurodiversity that, at least at my home, we were doing really well, and then right as we get to the finish line, we start to crash and burn. It's really difficult for the kids. Now we have finals if you're in high school or even if you're in middle school. It's just a lot to pile on. And then personally as a parent, I want my educators and my bus drivers and my EAs to realize how much I appreciate them. So I'm in my head like, oh gosh, I need to get gifts for everybody. I need to get baskets for everybody. So it just puts so much stress on everyone.
I agree. The burnout is intensely real for all of us. Something that I have learned through lots of trial and many, many errors is that as we look toward the summer, if you have children within the autism or the anxiety or the OCD world, we think, I'm planning this great vacation. We're going to go here. This is exciting. This is exciting. Actually, you're just layering more stress, more dysregulation. As much as school is a demand, it is the same. It's expected. You're doing the same thing and they might get tired. But when you start trying to plan these traditional family activities for my kids, for sure, it leads to worry, meltdown, dread, and then I'll feel guilty as a parent if I'm like, well, I didn't plan anything for the summer when so-and-so's doing this and they're doing this. And I'm like, we're staying at home and trying to ignore the world. And so I think it's another thing to even think about, that all the new plans adds to the dysregulation for our neurodiverse and anxious kiddos.
I think there is added pressure in our community that you're right. There's a lot of high ticket vacations, and it's also a pretty short summer as compared to some schedules across the country. So you're trying to cram all of that into 8 weeks versus 12 weeks, and that's difficult, and a lot of just expectations.
Especially for our parents that are still working. Like, they don't get summers off. It is just another layer of stress, just a different day.
And I know we talk about it a lot. It's sort of a trendy thing to talk about these days, but is the invisible load of parents, especially your primary caregiver who's looking at all of the many different things we need to pay attention to with our kiddos. I love that you brought up Teacher Appreciation Week, because I know amongst ourselves, we've always been like, why? Why is it in the end of May or mid-May? It's the worst time. Everybody's busy. And then I feel like February is just not the best month. Let's put it then.
Right? Like, have it half a year to celebrate.
It's when they need it, right? Kelly brought up, and I think that it's also worth acknowledging that within our community, especially for our kids who are in center-based programs, is usually teams of possibly 10 plus people who are serving our children. And I know that all of us, we feel this intense appreciation, and we somehow want to show that appreciation in a gift that I need to replicate over 10 times. And so how do I pour all my love into a single gift that's affordable enough that I can purchase it for everybody? And I know it's probably a lot of pressure I put on myself, but somehow I want to try and show my appreciation. And that is a huge thing I'm thinking about and worrying about. And it's super specific to our community as well, where we're like, how do I somehow show you my appreciation when there's really no way in a single gift?
Well, and I think it's unique to our community that sometimes parents who don't have a child on an IEP don't realize how many people that your child on an IEP interacts with. And you could even have private home services of speech and OT and PT. And so that is a lot of gifts to provide.
And when you throw in the social media aspect, when you're on Facebook or Instagram and you're seeing these parents that maybe just have one kid on an IEP, but their IEP looks far different than any of mine, and they're posting these elaborate, beautiful pencil or ruler or school bus gifts that they've somehow created from Pinterest. It's like, wait, how am I not doing this? What am I doing wrong? I clearly need to step up my game, because good Lord, why can't I do that? Take the pressure off people, please.
The social pressure can be hard for sure. But
my teachers know we love them.
But that is the fear, right? I don't ever want to somehow feel like I'm not appreciating enough, but also where's my bandwidth and what can I generate with all the busyness of all the other things that I'm doing? And I like to craft things, and I'm like, that just takes time that I don't have in May. Let's talk about another topic that sort of really rears its head in May, especially within our community, and that is the idea of transitioning or that uncertainty. So we often are going to have our IEPs towards the end of this time. We may have transition meetings to new schools. This is also the time that I don't know I entirely agree with, that leadership will often talk about, hey, do you need to transition out of this support, or do you need this support or that support? And so there's so many changes that are coming up that are adding to the emotional worry, when you're also like, are we making the correct decisions? Are we evaluating my child for where they are or where they are in May? It's another layer for sure.
It is. And I actually went to my youngest transition meeting this morning, which was helpful. I would encourage parents to ask for transition meetings. Sometimes they're offered, sometimes they're not, but it is helpful. So we went over early in the morning, and his special education teacher from the elementary school was there, as well as the school psychologist, and then the special education teacher from the middle school. And so we sat down and we talked to him about what the schedule would look like. We asked questions about, do they have a sensory room, and what that would look like. So we got to sort of ask our questions, what his special education model would look like for him, for that particular student. He's going to be team taught, and we thought that that would be the best place for him. Then they had an 8th grader come and give us a tour of the school so we could see it, because the more times we see it, the more comfortable we get, right? Because special education in particular looks quite different going from elementary school to middle school, how those services are provided looks very different. So I think that can be a confusing time for both parents and students. But you're right, to cram more things into May, I think maybe we should be thinking about it a little sooner. And for my son's situation, because they are moving 6th grade into middle school up in Highlands Ranch, they've never done it before. And they're like, well, we think the classrooms are going to be over here, but we don't actually know. We're not sure how that's all going to kind of work out. So that sometimes can be difficult for our people, that maybe flexibility is not their strongest suit.
I'm thankful in Parker we're waiting another year. I think they're going to next school year in 2027, 2028 have 6th grade be in the middle school. So thankfully my middle is not having to deal with that this year, because I couldn't imagine, okay, so you have to be at homeroom and then you have to go to a first period and then second period is on the other side of this building. So to try to, and these boys going through puberty and all these other things and trying to find little fish in a big pond, like trying to find their place, it's a lot that we're asking of these kids. And then you throw on the social aspect and the masking and all the other things. I'm thankful we have another year and I can learn from you over the next year of what worked, what didn't work, because, oh my goodness.
Well, and I'll do the flip side of that. I'm actually super excited for my son to be in middle school for 6th grade. He's kind of a quirky little guy, and middle school gives him more opportunities to find his pack, right? To find people like him. He was so excited to find out there's a huge D&D club that has over 50 students in it. So I think middle school actually for that particular child is going to be a better fit. Elementary can be kind of intense, and when you've been with the same students for 6, if you were there for kindergarten, 7 years, they can become more like siblings. When they asked him, what are you excited about for middle school this morning? He said, I'm excited to meet new friends. So I'm excited for him to meet new friends.
I love that little breath of hope too. I think it brings up a good point that all of our kiddos are different. And for some people, the middle school model is going to be more helpful. For some, it could be completely overwhelming. To speak again to the value of transition meetings and why we bring it up is that they're not automatically added anymore. What that means is when you're leaving like elementary school to middle school to high school, or high school to bridge. So you're transitioning to a new school. So for my daughter's IEP, it was pretty good and intense, and I was able to write up a really big explanation because she's complicated and can be really challenging to unlock. I was able to do a lot of that with the teacher, and I think everyone sort of wondered like, oh, well, what's going to be the value of our transition meeting? We've already talked about this a lot, and my daughter doesn't participate. It's too overwhelming for her. But still, the transition meeting was really, really useful in that the wider team was there. They were able to ask additional questions and very specific questions about, well, how would we go about this, or how do we support that were in addition to this sort of document that I wrote up, which was a lot of the worst case scenario. And so it presents a somewhat scary picture, and we're like, hey, this is not every day, but we just want you to be prepared. Another consideration for those of you that are in center-based programs, so if you're in the ASD or AN or SSN, it also gave me a chance to talk with that team because they spoke to the idea that when students come in to their program from a different school, there's so much variety in their ability. And they say that they almost reinvent their program every single year to accommodate, hey, this child has this specific area of strength, but this significant area of challenge, and they have to restructure their program. So by me being there and being able to talk with them, and they were able to ask me questions, I could see their brain going, oh, you know what, we should pair with this person, or we don't have something for this area. And it was really useful to be able to even help them prep for this new student and adjust their programming.
And if you're a parent that your child had a 504 or an IEP recently or previously and then kind of phased out, they were like, we looked at everything, we looked at the data, they don't qualify for it. I cannot stress as you are transitioning to talk to the team. Be like, hey, these are things that we've dealt with previously. The anxiety piece could be an issue, so it could be more mental health focused versus educational reasons. And these transition meetings aren't just for kids with 504s and IEPs. Like if you're a parent that is like, hey, I have a child that is super anxious, call, set one up. These are tools that anybody can use for the taking. You just got to ask.
Right. And I would do it sooner rather than later. Like say if you have a kiddo that's going to be going to a transitional year, start in January and say, I'd love to have a conversation. Any opportunities the school provides also to go into the school. So like my kids' middle school does something called Peek at the Pack over the summer. I encourage people to sign up for those if at all possible, even if you're taking them to concerts or plays or things, because the more times they're in the building, the more comfortable they get with it, right? It doesn't seem so scary. It doesn't seem so large.
Okay, ladies, let's try and give some helpful tips and tricks. Often May is survival mode. What are some things that you do to monitor your overwhelm, your children's overwhelm? How do you approach May?
My biggest tip is each child is different. I look at them individually and I'm like, okay, my oldest needs this. She needs emotional reassurance. She needs confidence. The workload on her, especially being a freshman right now, is so daunting. But then I look at my middle son. He needs me to back off a little bit and give him the space to just do it and trust that he will come to me if he needs me. And then my youngest, I'm just like, here's all the fruit snacks. That's his love language is fruit snacks and talking about Bluey and all of his favorite things and making the teacher appreciation gifts. I'm like, dude, you got this. Like, what do you want to do? We do this.
That's wonderful. I would say from the parental perspective, give yourself so much grace. I mean, in my house, unlimited screen time. I don't care if your brain is oozing out of your ears. I think we have to keep it real because certainly, as you touched on, Courtney, social media makes it look like we have to do everything so perfectly. And you know what? Ordering pizza, nothing wrong with that. Frozen food, like nothing wrong with that. We are just limping across the finish line. And that's okay. And everybody's feeling that way. And don't fall for the Instagram posts.
No, especially like my youngest has an end of year project. This is his first time having a project ever. And he has to make about 30 to 50 little bookmarks for his class. I'm like, okay, do you want McDonald's? Do you want the Mario Nuggets? Okay, this is what we have to do to get you to participate in this. Fine by me. You can have McDonald's. I don't care. Judge away.
100%.
We love McDonald's chicken nuggets in our house. We will not change that.
That's for my youngest, lots of bargaining. As far as for me trying to handle the stress and overwhelm, a lot of what Kelly said, grace for myself. I'm someone who I think I probably put a lot of pressure on myself, or I feel a lot of guilt. I think we all do. But something that helps me is communicating it. Like just saying out loud, hey, this is a hard month. Hey, I know I didn't get this put away. And it's almost more just reassuring myself out loud. Hey, I acknowledge that everything's not working the specific way that I would like it to be working, but that's okay. And it's almost like, you know how you have like positive affirmations? Mine are, it's okay affirmations. Just reminding myself when I start to get hard on myself or frustrated, I'm like, it's okay. It's fine. We're making it through this month. Acknowledge that this is a challenging month. And that's something that helps me breathe through it. And I think a hard one for me, but one I try to stick by is to not overbook in May. And it's almost impossible. There's so many things that I'm supposed to be doing. And then I get busier and then I miss my friends or my social life and I want to, oh, girls, we should get together. And then I'm like, why did I do this in May? So trying to remember, don't shove everything into May. June will arrive.
And I feel like for us specifically, having kids on the spectrum and special needs, our walls and our armor are so up high and so strong that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to find other parents that are walking similar. They might not be walking the same paths, but to just find that person. I look back to last year and I never wanted to say anything to bug anyone. And this year I'm texting you like, girl, this is what just happened. Oh my gosh, I just need a minute. I just need to let it out. And then you sharing a story and just having that moment where they could be vastly different, but just, okay, we're still great moms. We still love our kids and they're going to be amazing and fine. And we just need to breathe.
Well, and I think that specifically in the disability community, our summers aren't necessarily easier. And so we can't lose sight of the fact that if we burn the candle at both ends in May, in June we transition to a different time. And that could be a time for some families that's quite intense, that they're trying to fill the hours or they're trying to find different activities to keep their child busy while they try to work. And so we just have to give ourselves some grace, and it's okay if we don't get it all right.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, Kelly. It's something I wanted to talk about and reflect out to all of you that are listening, because the parent guilt is real and everyone's always, oh, I'm so excited for summer. I'm so excited to have my kids. I'm so excited to do this. And I know a lot of families that quietly feel sad or guilty about the fact that summer is their hard season, because with school comes support and structure that helps their children behave and function, and it gives them a place to go. When you have children, especially children with significant disabilities or complexities, having them home all day long and trying to find a way to enrich them, when your typical children, they can get bored, or they can see their friends, or they can entertain themselves. There's things that happen depending on their age and ability. But often with our children who have really significant needs, you're talking about nearly 24-hour line of sight care sometimes, and balancing that with your other children and your job and your life and all of these expectations. So for parents that are out there, I want to reflect that out. I've had a parent let me know how they feel bad or feel like they get judgment when they say, oh my gosh, the summer is so hard because I have my kids all the time. And some people who don't walk the walk are like,
why are you complaining? Shouldn't you be happy you're getting time away from the therapies and the OTs and everything? Like, no. Regression is on our minds, all of our minds, especially me. Like this last year, my youngest grew so much and his vocabulary has almost quadrupled. And in the back of my mind, okay, what do I have to do every single day so we don't regress, so we don't lose all this progress? Because if he shows up in September or August now, again, the East Coast coming out in August, and it's gone, it's going to be like, well, what did you do at home, Mom? What were we not doing? Were we not following the schedule? Like, no, I promise.
That's real.
Well, and so I am very old and I have lots of children, so I don't care anymore. Most fun part about summer is I don't care when you wake up. I don't care when you go to bed, right? I mean, you're mostly eating ramen noodles. My children, I'm going to admit it, they're feral. And it's okay, right? It's okay. And so that is probably my favorite part of summer is that, whatever, stay in bed.
Same.
And feral is key, but we are going to be showering every day or at least every other day.
I think you're setting that bar
I
too
know.
tight.
I'm like, can we at least shower every other day?
And that's the beauty of summer, right? I think that our children are so structured during the school year to be a little feral, and you only get that in childhood. When do we go feral? Really never. There's so much striving for perfectionism and excellence and whatnot, but you don't get to be a child for very long. And those are some of the great joys, sleeping in forever, staying up way too late. For me, I was reading a book. They're probably like reading webtoons or on YouTube or something.
Exactly, they're on YouTube.
But embracing that as well. I think it's a good coping skill as well, is to remember that letting them be kids and not having to put so much pressure on yourself.
Protect the childhood as long as we can, and the little minds need breaks and naps and to sleep in.
So friends, I think one of the biggest takeaways from this conversation is that if May feels hard in your home, you are not alone. This is real. It's a really, really intense season for parents and for kids, and also for all of our educators who are supporting them. There's a lot that's happening, and it's okay if it's not all perfect. It shouldn't be. It won't be. Sometimes survival or just getting through the day is the win, and just take the win. If May is bringing stress, not just for today, but for what summer is also going to look like, we see you there too. Summer can be challenging, especially when you're given the expectation that you should be so happy and charming and just a happy picture family. And you're like, it's really hard. Find your community if you can. Talk with others. DCCAC had our very first happy hour. We've never done it before because we are all crazy busy with kids with special needs. The couple hours that we spent together, even though it took forever to schedule it, it filled our hearts so much. So if you can find time, I hate it when people tell me, like, are you managing your self-care? And I'm like, when? But the tiny little moments you can sneak out, it's so valuable. It can fill you up. Kelly, Courtney, thanks for hanging out with me and chit-chatting about May, especially since we're recording in May.
Excellent point, Aaliyah. Excellent.
To our listeners, we're glad you're here. If this episode felt relatable, we'd love for you to share it with another parent who might need to hear it. You can find more episodes and resources and upcoming events on our website, dccac.org, or any of our socials. They'll all be linked here below. And as always, remember, the road may be hard, but it's way more fun with friends. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.